All right, are we good? Are we live? I think we are. Hello all and welcome back to the Women's Football Chat. We are back for yet more Asian Cup action as we're into the semi-finals, and today it's South Korea taking on Japan. Yesterday we watched Australia just about got past China 2-1 in that game, an incredibly close matchup, and now we'll find out who will meet Australia in the final. Will it be Japan or will it be South Korea? We've got a South Korea side who are looking to go to back-to-back finals. They were in the 2022 final. They ultimately lost that game to China. And we've seen a lot this tournament where there is this real desire. Shin Sang-woo, the man, just spoke about it a lot. South Korea want to get to the final. They want to get over that hill. They want to win this competition. So there's a huge desire for South Korea. As for Japan, well, Japan are undoubtedly the strongest nation in this competition. They've won the competition in 2 of the last 3 editions, and while 2022 was disappointing, they've been fantastic so far this tournament. So you'd be a very brave individual to bet against Japan in this game. But there is a lot of belief that South Korea could pull something off today. There is a lot of quality in this South Korea side. I think the biggest problem is that when you look at what Japan's weaknesses are, they don't really play into those South Korea. Japan struggle more against physical sides, and South Korea are another technical side. And the problem with that is if you're trying to go sort of matching the style of Japan today, being very technical, then it's going to come out on player quality, and we know Japan's player quality is absolutely absurd. So I think it's going to be difficult today for South Korea, but I certainly don't rule them out. I mean, I know a lot of people that, looking at the poll in chat, it's been 89% Japan so far. So there's a lot of people that would immediately say, well, Japan are just so strong, I can't see a way they lose this game. But I do think that South Korea will give them a very good game today. I don't think it's going to be like we've seen in recent matches where, Japan smashed the Philippines, they smashed India, pretty much smashed Vietnam. They were so good in the group stage and in that quarterfinal match. This is going to be a lot more difficult. Japan are still massive favourites, aren't they? But I don't think it's going to be as controlling and as dominant as some of their performances have been at this tournament. Welcome all to the stream. Great to see such an active live chat for this early morning stream. And with that, let's dive in to the lineup. So we are at the Stadium Australia in Sydney. Let's begin with the team for South Korea. A 4-4-2 today for South Korea. In goal, Kim Min-jung. A back four then of Kim Hae-ri, Ko Yoo-jin, who scored a fantastic goal in their quarter-final match. No Jin-young, and then Jang Sel-gi, who also scored in that game against Uzbekistan. Across the midfield, 4 then on one wing Jin Min-young, on the other Park Soo-jung, and a midfield pair of Kim Shin-ji and Chu Hyo-ju, seeing unfortunately Ji So-yun drop out of the side. And then that front partnership that's worked so well in recent weeks, it's Moon Hyun-ju and Jeon Yu-jeong. So looking at this Korea side then, I do think without Ji they're going to struggle a little bit for creativity, but we've seen Park really thrive at this tournament on that left-hand side. We know the fullbacks are going to be quite aggressive as well. Kim Hae-ri on the right-hand side likes to get high. Jang Sel-gi likes to get high as well. So they're going to push their fullbacks high. That front partnership as well, that's going to be really interesting to watch today because I think they've caught a few sides out, and similar with North Korea, by playing that front two. And to be fair, similar with China, where because Japan are going to defend with a back 4 today, sometimes it's going to tuck into a back 3, but broadly they'll defend with a back 4. Their fullbacks pushing up a little bit. It can leave situations where they're left 2-on-2. And that combination, an understanding between Moon Hyun-ju and Jeon Yu-jeong, that understanding is really strong. And if those two can combine again, like they have done in recent matches, like they have done throughout this tournament, I think it puts them in a real strong position, an opportunity where they can hurt Japan. But yeah, Japan are so good. It's going to be interesting how South Korea approach this game. We've seen a lot of teams drop really deep. There's been games where Japan are pretty much their defensive lines on the edge of your penalty area, and they're just playing in your third. That's how dominant they have been in some of these games. I don't think it's going to be quite that extreme today. But they can't allow themselves to get bogged down. They've got to try and come at Japan when they get those opportunities. Of course, they've got to defend well today. That's a given when you're playing a side like Japan. But yeah, I don't think they can afford to get bogged down. And that's been a real issue for a few different teams this tournament where they just keep dropping deeper and deeper and there's nowhere else to go. So eventually you're just sat there pretty much waiting for Japan to make something happen. So they can't afford to let that happen today. Let's take a look then at the Japan side. They've rotated frequently throughout this tournament, but this is probably their strongest 11. In goal, Ayaka Yamashita. A back four then with Takahashi at right back, Kumagai and Koga, the centre-half partnership with Kitagawa coming in at left back. In the midfield three, it's Fuka Nagano alongside Yui Hasegawa and Hinata Miyazawa. An incredibly fluid midfield three. Such a strong game understanding between the three of them. If one pushes up, one drops in. The way they're able to manipulate space, the way they're able to be dynamic in that midfield to create opportunities, to overload different areas and to draw oppositions out. They've been so good so far this tournament. And again, you get that because you've got three players who are all very capable of playing a more attacking role, of pulling wide, of dropping into that 6 role. So that fluidity between those midfield three has been what's been so impressive for Japan in this tournament. And then for that front three, Fujino on one wing, Maika Hamano on the other, and then it's Riko Ueki leading the line. Ueki, of course, in pursuit of that golden boot, currently joint with Alana Kennedy, 5 goals apiece. If she could score today, she'd all but confirm that golden boot. It's unlikely that Alana Kennedy's going to score more than 1 goal in the finals. So Ueki trying to crown what's been a really impressive tournament for herself and a really impressive tournament for Japan so far. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game today. I think, again, we're looking at 2 sides who are going to play fairly similarly. It's part of the reason why I think the finals could be very different, because if you've watched Australia at this tournament, they are playing the furthest thing from technical football. It's much more direct. It's much more physical. And so I think, if Japan do get through this game, I don't think it's a given they win the competition. I think the final is going to be a different beast. I think it's going to be a game where you're looking at a clash really of different styles. It's the same reason that China have been so strong in this competition, because they've been able to leverage their physical advantage over everybody else. And they came up against their match, really. Australia were more physical than China in patches, but also more clinical. And they combine that technical aspect and that quality aspect as well as their physicality. So that's the only reason, if Japan get through this game and get to that final, I do think it's going to be a lot closer. But I don't think this is a given. I think South Korea will be up for it today. I think they're going to make it a really good game. But I think we have to recognise that they probably don't have the same quality as Japan. But yeah, football can be a funny game at times, and there have been some really impressive performances from South Korea. In fact, I think every game I've watched them, I've been impressed with them so far. But obviously it's the same case for Japan, isn't it? 2 sides who've had a really strong tournament. It's kind of unfortunate they met on the same side of the draw, but this should be a really interesting semi-final matchup. And yeah, I'm intrigued to see how South Korea get on in this game, how long they can delay Japan, because again, when you're the underdog in this kind of game, the longer you can make life difficult for Japan, the more sort of 10, 5-minute milestones that you hit, and the later this game goes on without conceding, the better your chance of getting some sort of result, because the other teams start to get frustrated as the sides who are stopping the team from scoring. You start to gain belief, you start to gain momentum, and can really push on from there. So yeah, I think there is an opportunity there. If South Korea can frustrate Japan, if they can defend well early on and then look to be a bit more direct, a bit more transitional later, we know that they can hit those 2 forwards in behind Moon Hyun-ju and Jeong Yu-jeon. So they've got options in those kind of positions. If they can move the ball through the lines, if they can hurt Japan in those transitional moments, there's a chance. Ultimately, though, the way Japan have played this tournament, as I say, the fluidity in that midfield three, the ruthless clinicality of that front line, the way that they have been creating chances, taking those opportunities, breaking into space in behind. I think particularly those cutbacks have been so dangerous at this tournament. And there's just so many good players in that attack where, some of these other teams at the tournament, even the likes of Australia, you go, well, if they get Sam Kerr in that kind of position, they're probably going to score. But that is about it. And, Mary Fowler's a great player as well. Caitlin Ford has that quality. But for this Japan team, it's like, well, you don't want to let Ueki get the ball, but you also don't want to let Fujino get the ball. But you also don't want to let Hamano get the ball. But you also don't want to let any of that midfield three get the ball, because if any of them get the ball, they could score immediately. So yeah, that's got to be a point of concern today for South Korea. Again, I think they've just got to be narrow. They've got to be compact. They've got to close down shots early, and they've got to frustrate Japan as much as they can. Right, well, let's dive into predictions then. 5 minutes till kick-off. Both sets of players out on the field, going through the national anthems. If you're watching along to the show and want to get involved, let me know your scoreline prediction in the live chat. I'm going to run through all of those ahead of kick-off. But I'm going to get started here in the studio. Loka saying, wow, talking down Kennedy. I just don't see her here brace in the final, but maybe she will. But yeah, I'm going to get us started with predictions then. South Korea taking on Japan. I've been super impressed with South Korea this tournament. I think Shin Sang-woo has done such a good job, and I think they play some really attractive football. But ultimately, I just think this is a quality gap they can't bridge. I look at that Japan team, not just the starting 11, but the options they've got off the bench today. And how do you compete? How do you compete with such quality and such strength in depth this Japanese national side have, and the way they play as well is so eye-catching, so effective, but also so efficient. They just move the ball quickly from back to front. They don't slow the game down. They don't wait for the perfect opportunity. They force errors from the opponent. They draw out space. They create space for themselves. Such intelligent football. So I think Japan will win this game. I think it's going to be a lot closer than some of their other matches at this tournament. I'm going to say South Korea 1, Japan 3. I think Korea will give them a really good game. I wouldn't even be surprised if they scored the opener and we start to think, oh, maybe South Korea could pull off the upset. And then we see Japan come back into it, potentially something along those lines. But I'm going to say South Korea 1, Japan 3. I think it's going to be Moon Hyun-ju to score for South Korea. Again, I think that transitional threat today is going to be so important. If she can combine with Jeon, that could be a route to goal. As for my goal scorers for Japan, I am going to say Riko Ueki, I think, again, in red-hot form and wants to get that golden boot. I'm tempted to say Toko Koga, the way that she's been scoring at this competition. But I'm going to go for Hinata Miyazawa, and then I will say Maika Hamano as well for the Japan 3-1 victory. But keep those predictions coming in to the live chat. Jeremy going 2-1 Japan. Locus saying 2-0 Japan, but I want to say 3. Say 3-0 Japan then. Go for it. Mark Barker saying 3-0 Japan as well. And yeah, I mean, the poll in chat, 92 votes so far. Thanks everyone that's got involved there. If you haven't yet voted in the poll in chat, make sure to do so. 92 votes though, 16% going for South Korea, 84% backing Japan. It is a very one-sided affair in the live chat, but I think it's going to be a much closer game out on the field. It's going to be a fascinating contest, I hope, between two sides who I think are much more evenly matched than they ever have been. I still think, of course, Japan are the stronger side, but I think it's getting closer. I think we've seen that at this Asian Cup. Outside of how dominant Japan have been, the matchups, particularly between the big sides, have been really tight. The games in the group stage, North Korea versus China was fantastic. South Korea versus Australia, similarly brilliant. We then got through to the quarterfinals. That North Korea-Australia game was so close. That semi-final then between Australia and China was a great game to watch yesterday. This is sort of the litmus test, because I don't think Japan have been tested yet at this tournament, in all honesty. The matches they had, the group stage, they got the nicest group by a distance. Their quarter-final game against the Philippines was a nice matchup. So, I mean, I'm not for any moment suggesting that they've been lucky. They've been so strong, Japan, but they haven't been tested yet. If they come into this game and steamroll them 4-0, then yeah, we've still got a problem with the quality gap in the Asian Cup. But if this is a lot tighter, then I think we're showing that the teams at the top are actually quite close. And, I mean, there is that gap to some of those other teams, and Japan are making that gap larger. But it could be very close to the top. I think this will be a closer matchup than any other game Japan have played. I think South Korea will be up for it today. I still think Japan, though, will come away with the victory and get themselves into the final. Lloyd going for 4-0 Japan. Emon saying 3-0 Japan. So, again, those predictions, score to nil wins for Japan coming off. Lloyd says, I think the US would win a friendly if they played against Japan today. The US, possibly. I think that'd be such a good game of football, but possibly. I think, the US team is incredibly strong. I would probably back Japan, but I know they're playing a triple header friendly thing coming up soon, which I never understand as a concept, playing the same team 3 times in a row, but they've got that coming up, which will be an interesting test heading into the World Cup next year. Japan here in their huddle ahead of kickoff and high-fiving every individual player. Well, South Korea's a bit more individualistic. Players preparing themselves, getting into the right zone to perform in this matchup. And I've been super impressed with South Korea at this tournament. I think they've shown a real knack to compete with some big sides. The question will be now, can they compete with the biggest side in Asia, the biggest force in Asia, and that is the Japanese national team. And it will be Japan to get us started today. So, Yui Hasegawa from the middle. Waits for the referee's whistle here in Sydney. Knocks it back and we're underway in this game. It's Australia taking on Japan in this semi-final matchup. A place in the final on Saturday awaits and a matchup against Australia in that game. It's South Korea taking on Japan, and it's Japan on the ball early on here. Here's Koga. Switching across to the left-hand side to Kumagai. Back across to Koga. Kumagai again, just trying to draw out the press of South Korea early on here. Now to Kitagawa at left back, looking down the line, going to lift it over the top. Ueki, a lovely acrobatic touch back into Hasegawa, back to Ueki, who crosses the ball in. It's cleared away to Fujino, who takes a wild strike at it, and that's well wide of the mark. But already there, a nice combination from Japan down the left-hand side, and Fujino unable there to find the target, but a nice move. Japan striking the first shots of this game within the first minute. And actually did take a deflection in there. Didn't look like it on initial viewing, but they have given a corner here to Japan. So Hasegawa can put them under more pressure. Ball floated on top of the goalkeeper here. It bounces through and somehow no one in either colour able to get their head to it. Japan, they clustered towards the front post. It just seemed to go over them and bounce down on that far side. How does no one get there for Japan? And South Korea just about getting it clear, and they're on possession now. Here's No Jin Young. Looking at her options. And that's a big mistake from the goalkeeper there, but just about bailed out. Kim Min-jung took way too long on the ball. Ueki puts the pressure on, but it falls favourably to Ko Yoo-jin, and South Korea trying to come forwards now. Ball lifted over the top. Chu gives chase, knocked home by Kitagawa. And now Yamashita can relax on the ball. Koga carrying it forwards. Now switching the play to find Kumagai. Shin Sang-woo already concerned about what he's seen in the opening 2 minutes. Japan creating opportunities too easily. Hamano. Pass inside now to Fuka Nagano, who's going to go out to the left-hand side. Kitagawa dropping to recover that ball. Now it's Fujino, who's just dropped into this defensive position. Koga carrying to the right-hand side. Hamano drops to the pocket. A nice combination. Koga lifting it towards the run of Hasegawa. Shielded out well by No Jin Young. Nice play again, though, from Japan. Players from the attacking line dropping in. Players from the midfield line pushing into the space left. Just couldn't quite find the space to attack into on that occasion, Japan. And Chris, welcome to the stream. I see Lloyd's answered your question about where to watch it. It's a shame that it is behind a paywall in the countries participating in this competition. Ball switched towards the left-hand side. And now lifted over the top. No Jin Young. And that will run through to Toko Koga. Under pressure here, Koga, but just about squeezing it back to Ayaka Yamashita. And Yamashita now into the pivot player of Nagano. Kumagai looks to the left-hand side. Kitagawa holding the width well. And back now into Kumagai. who's going to lift it long and try and go direct. And that's a fantastic ball from Saki Kumagai. A little bit too much on it, though, for Gino. Wasn't going to get there ahead of the defender anyway, but the goalkeeper out well to claim it. Good goalkeeping from Kim Min-jung. It's an interesting situation for Kim Min-jung because it's not often that you rest goalkeepers, but South Korea rotated their goalkeeper in the quarter-final game. In that match, they played Shu Bin rather than playing Kim Min-jung. So she's had a rest, but I think arguably in major tournaments, you don't really want that rest. You want to just keep playing. And I understand that they wanted to give another goalkeeper an opportunity, but I think that they'd have been better off letting their starting goalkeeper play all the matches. She has it a little bit shaky early on here. Moon Hyun-ju, lovely footwork there high up the pitch. South Korea in the Japan third, forced backwards now though. And all the way back to Ko Hyu-jin. No Jin-young. Wide into Jang Sel-gi, who's under pressure here from Hamano. Back to No Jin-young. And No goes all the way back to Kim Min-jung. Ball lifted out towards the right-hand side, and Chu unable there to keep it in touch. So, I mean, it's looking slightly different for Korea today when they're coming forwards. It looks like they are tucking the right back in to form a back three, and they're pushing Jang Sel-gi high. It's looking quite, and then obviously off the ball, they go back to their 4-4-2 they've been using throughout this tournament. Though arguably it's more of a 5-4-1. For Gino, carrying inside. And back now to Saki Kumagai. Across to Toko Koga. Carrying this ball now through the lines, needing support. Hamano pulls wide to offer it. Now Nagano. Inside to Miyazawa. Kumagai. Here's for Gino, dropping into a left back position here. Kitagawa. Now Yui Hasegawa. Kumagai. Hasegawa again. Kitagawa trying to lift it forwards. Nice pass there into the run down the channel from Riko Ueki. Pulled wide well to receive. Needs support now and cuts it inside to Hasegawa. Bounces to Nagano. Nice turn. Lovely, lovely interplay here as it's Hamano to Takahashi. It falls for Hasegawa, who can't quite turn it goalwards. And that was a wonderful combination in the final third by Japan. Breathtaking football. It's cut back here by Fujino. Hasegawa bounces inside to Nagano, who turns Miyazawa to Hamano. The flick back heel into the strike then of Takahashi, who venomously wraps it across goal. It's parried into the path of Hasegawa, who can't quite direct it home. But a lovely move from Japan, and that deserved to be capped off with a goal. Beautiful football. Beautiful football from Nadeshiko. Lloyd says, let us know Japan are pressing aggressively the opposition backs and they receive facing their own goal. They are aggressive on the pivot play. Yeah. To be fair, Korea have gone very different with their formation today. So they're trying to get outlets in wide areas with the wing backs. And obviously that means they can defend in a 5 and they can go player for player, which I think is going to be important for Gino. Forced backwards to Kitagawa, who just breezes past Moon Hyun-ju, lifting that ball forwards and into the grasp of Kim Min-jung. But this is where it's interesting, because obviously we're watching now Korea play a very different style to what they've used throughout this tournament, and it's very defensive, it's very negative so far, but it's also not particularly working. Japan have already had 2 big opportunities, and they could have another one here. Riko Ueki from a tight angle tries to get a shot away at goal, but not able to find the target. But it's been one-way traffic thus far. 73% possession for Japan. And that's got to be their 4th shot of the game, I think. And Pin, welcome to the stream, says Go Nadeshiko. And Tilina says, what's up, dudes? I'm great, thank you. Yeah, I'm loving this Asian Cup. It's been a fantastic tournament so far. I'm hoping it continues in that way. Now Kim In-jung. As Korea build out from the back, and that is cut out by Fujino. Drops now though for Kim Hae-ri. Pass forwards, cut out once again. This time Nagano, the interceptor. Miyazawa. Koga carrying forward, slips it inside again to Hinata Miyazawa. Through the lines to Hasegawa, tries to flick it round the corner, and it doesn't quite come off. Here's Nagano. Now Hikaru Kitagawa. Back through the lines, looking for the runner, Nagano. Great run from Fuka Nagano. Just struggled there to keep it under her control. It's not had a play, though, by Kim Hae-ri. We're already seeing their career side run ragged by Japan. Corner now for the Nadeshiko. And it's Hasegawa over this. Who can she pick out in the penalty area? Well, she's going to lift it there towards the back post again. No one quite able to direct it goal as initially Takahashi looping a header up. And that was a comfortable claim for Kim Min-jung. Korea now feeding to the left-hand side. Jang back into No Jin-young. Kim Min-jung lifting it forwards, cut out again in midfield. This time it's Hasegawa lifting through the lines to Ueki, flicked onto Fujino, who takes aim. A great block in there from Ko Yoo-jin, who got across to it well, narrowed the angle, and it cannons off her thigh for another Japan corner. Did well here on the turn, got in front of it, and blocks it out for a corner. So again, Japan can put Korea under pressure here. The referee's going to have a word with Ko Yoo-jin and Fujino about pushing in the box. And a couple other players as well. I think that's Ueki in there with Moon Hyun-ju. Two strikers competing. Hasegawa lifts it in towards the front post. Headed away well. Nagano taking aim. That one, though, well wide. Just didn't catch that one how she would have wanted to there, Fuka Nagano. And Captain Ko Yoo-jin with some words. I don't know if that was for the referee or for her teammates. Whether that was a frustration aimed towards the officiating, or whether that was just a real cry to her teammates to get into this game. Because at the moment, they are struggling. Nagano. Again, a long ball from South Korea from the goal kick, and Japan pick up possession without too much issue. Here is Hikaru Kitagawa, who loses possession in there. And Moon Hyun-ju winning it back for Gino. Now to Kumagai. Here's Koga. Back to Kumagai. Koga again. Can they find a way through? Wide to Hamano, who's holding the width well on this right-hand side. Now Miyazawa back into Toko Koga. And now Kitagawa. Hasegawa for Gino. Back to Yui Hasegawa. Nowhere to go. Forced backwards. It's one back in there well by Kim Hae-ri. Kim Hae-ri. Japan back in possession. Nagano looks to the right-hand side. Back to Toko Koga. Options down the line, looking for Hamano in the pocket, picked off well by Jang. Here now South Korea trying to find a way forward. Hasegawa though picking up on that loose pass, and miscommunication between Kim Shin-ji and Moon Hyun-ju. And Kumagai out towards the right hand side, just about kept on there by Takahashi. Now Koga. And into Saki Kumagai. Here's Kitagawa. Carrying it down the left-hand side. Cut out well by Kim Shin-ji. And one back in there now by Chu Hyu-ju. Coming forwards, lovely combination. That final ball though just lacking. And Nagano picks it off. One back in midfield now by Jun Min-young. Picked off again. She tried to force it forwards. And was that... I don't know what's been pulled back here. I think it was the referee who intercepted it rather than Hinata Miyazawa. Miyazawa did intercept it, touched it into the referee. The referee wanted to do a drop ball then, as she had interfered. And obviously if that had led to a goal, may have been a point of controversy. Hamano poking it wide. Doesn't quite get enough on that though, and Jang wins it back. Now needs support. No Jin-young. Plays it inside her own penalty area. It's one high here by Nagano to Ueki, who turns it home. And that is a big mistake from South Korea in their own penalty area. Too easy for Japan. And that a massive blunder. Why would you try and play a pass like that in your own box? No Jin-young plays it inside to Min Jin-young in there. Jun Min-young, I don't know why you'd try, it's Kim Shin-ji, so don't know why you'd try to play that kind of pass in that area under so much pressure. Kim Shin-ji loses out to Nagano, and it's worked well to Ueki, who just rolls it through the legs there of the goalkeeper. Great pressure from Japan, put Kim Shin-ji under all kinds of pressure. But why would No Jin-young play that pass there? Big mistake from South Korea in this game. Fujino looked to carry forwards, one back by Moon Hyun-ju. Now Jun Min-young. Out towards the left-hand side. Jang Sel-gi wants to come inside now with possession. Looking to switch the play. And holding the width well here. It's Chu. But she can't get to the ball, and it's shielded out of play well by Ayoba Fujino. But yeah, that was simply too easy for Japan to exploit. Riko Ueki, that probably could have been saved there, as it came off the foot of the goalkeeper. But Ueki with her 6th goal in this competition, in lethal form. Japan lead here by a 1-0. Yamashita, Nagano. Now Kumagai. Kitagawa cut out here by Jung Min-young. Falls now for an opportunity. Shot from Park, wide of the mark. And you can see Yamashita's furious that situation's allowed to happen. Park Seo-jung winning it in this midfield space. Just can't quite keep it on target. Shot just wide of the far post. Ball down the right-hand side. Cut out well, not had a play by No Jin-young. Hamano throws it inside to Ueki. Ueki looking to the left-hand side. Trying to find the overlapping run here of Kitagawa. Chu narrows the angle. Back now with Fujino. Kumagai into Koga, carrying forwards. Nagano bouncing it back to Kumagai. Here is Fujino. Cut out there. Fujino tried to play it forwards. Hits the referee. It was going to fall to a Korea player, but I think it will be a Japan drop ball. That will allow them to keep the pressure on. It will be a Korea ball, to be fair. Which Japan aren't happy about, because they think this is a situation where they would have kept possession, but this is the right call from the referee, because it was a pass that was only going to go to a Korea defender. Ball launched forwards, cut out by Kitagawa. And now for Gino, lovely touch to carry it inside. Finds Hasegawa, now Nagano. Into Hinata Miyazawa. Hamano. Into Saki Kumagai. Nagano. Here's Hamano. Koga. Across to Kumagai. Koga. Lifts it forwards. Ueki heading it down. And it's cleared away well. Kept alive here by Nagano. Now Takahashi. Koga again. Nice turn from Nagano. Miyazawa looking for Hasegawa, picked off well, and then launched clear by Kim Min-jung. Koga wins the header. Here's Fuka Nagano. And now Hikaru Kitagawa. Nagano. Lovely pass from Kumagai now to switch the play. Back to Toko Koga. Tries to play it forwards. Just slightly mishit that pass into Yui Hasegawa. Jang Seo-gi. Possession given away and a strong challenge in there from the recovering Park. Now Gion. Nice hold up. But that's poor there. Plays it into Jun Min-young, who doesn't have a call there. There's a player on her back. Loses out. One back by Mooney and Ju. But again, good interception from Kumagai. Just jumped in front of the forward pass. And Japan back in possession. Kumagai. Nagano. Back now to Koga. Nagano, lovely pass round the corner into Hamano, who drops to receive. Combining with Miyazawa. Miyazawa plays it wide. Takahashi inside to Hamano in the half space. Nagano forced backwards. And here's Kumagai. Nagano. Miyazawa. Kumagai again. Japan probing here. Miyazawa trying to find Hasegawa. One back in there well by Park Seo-jung. Pass forwards into Gion, who's nudged down there by Koga. Would have been a soft free kick though, and it's not given. Koga into Fuka Nagano. Now Miyazawa. Through the lines to Fujino. Lovely footwork from Aoba Fujino, who opens up for the shot and fires over the bar. Lovely combination. And what Japan do so well is that they penetrate in central areas. So many teams progress wide and it allows teams time to drop in. But the way Japan attack and create situations where they can get shots away from the edge of the box directly in front of goal, it just makes them so threatening. And the combinations in that zone 14, in and around the edge of the penalty area, they're just so good. And the way they've been able to combine in those areas, the way they've been able to pull space in the pockets, it's just been so impressive so far. In Japan comfortably controlling this game. 8 shots to 1, 3 shots on target to none, and possession has been completely dominant as well. 75% of the ball for Japan, 25% for Korea. Trying to come forwards now, but brought down was Gion. Japan back in possession. Koga looking to the right-hand side. Nagano, that's cut out well by Mooney and Ju. Looking now towards the left-hand side. Goes back instead, though, into Jang Seo-gi. Now No Jin-young. Has options ahead of her. Wide into Jang. Lovely pass round the corner. Straight into the forward of Gion, who tries to hold it up. But just gets sandwiched there between Kumagai and Nagano. And nowhere for her to go. And Michael in the live chat asks, do Japan have the world best team here? I think they've definitely got the strongest team in Asia. Whether or not it's the strongest team in the world is definitely a point of contention. I think they're definitely in the conversation, definitely in the top 5. But how do you assess them up against an England, up against a Spain, up against the US now, especially under Emma Hayes? I think for me they're probably 4th or 5th, but they're absolutely up there. When we get round to that 2027 Women's World Cup in Brazil, they've got to be considered one of the favourites. And I think there will be a real desperation to go and win it. There's a lot of pressure on a few teams to go and win. England, it will likely be it could be Serena Wiegmann's last World Cup with the England national team. There'll be a real desperation, I think, to finally win the World Cup. For Spain, they want to go back to back. US want to get back into the winner's circle after what was a very disappointing 2023. I think Brazil as well, a side who are keen to show what they can do on home turf. Japan coming forwards. Fujino. Ball looped in there by Hikaru Kitagawa. Bouncing through the box. Hamano picks it up on the far side, trying to create space for the cross. Just about wriggling free of the challenge of Jang Sel-gi. Takes aim for a wild angle, and it creeps in at the front post. How on earth does Maika Hamano find a goal from that angle? Such an impossible angle, but fires home with venom at the front post. And the goalkeeper can't prevent it. And it's a testament here to our hard work. Doesn't give up on this ball at all. Works hard, under pressure from Jang Sel-gi in that position. And just fires to the near post, into the roof of the net. It's a difficult one. The goalkeeper just doesn't expect it, reacts too late. And by the time she gets that glove up to it, there's very little she can do to deny the shot of Maika Hamano. South Korea 0, Japan 2. And that is one hell of a reaction from Niels Nielsen. Delighted with Japan's start to this game. Richard says that's the commentary. This guy's doing a good job. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. And Shora saying amazing goal by Hamano. Absolutely. Showing what she's capable of there. Tidy stuff from Maika Hamano. Chu throws inside to Jun Min Young. And here is Ko Yoo-jin lifting it forwards, headed away in there by Koga. And here's Miyazawa. Great work in midfield here from Jun Min Young. Knocks it wide. Here's Moon Young-ju. And back now into Kim Shin-ji. Pass forward into Chu, who takes aim. Wide of the mark. High and wide, in actual fact. And yeah, I mean, they haven't got a shot on target yet. South Korea, that's only their second shot of the game total. And Japan already have 2 goals. It has been one-way traffic in this game. Really, really struggled. Have South Korea, disappointingly so. Ball round the corner now. Into Miyazawa. Wide to Fujino. Trying to cut inside. Dancing away through. Slips it in behind. Hasegawa. That's saved well. And I think the offside flag might follow here. No, it doesn't. Hasegawa timed it well. And let's take another look at it. Fujino dancing inside. Yeah, it's a great run from Hasegawa. For good goalkeeping, Kim Min-jung gets out to it well. Narrows down the angle. And Hasegawa can't quite find that finishing touch. It was always going to be a bit difficult there. Was running through, had to adjust her body quite quickly to try and squeeze it towards goal. Kim Min-jung, though, could see what was happening all the way. Confident goalkeeping. Hasegawa towards the back post. Takahashi heads goalwards, nodded on, and it's a third for Japan, but the offside flag has gone up there against Ayoba Fujino. Just dropping there. Yeah, went right on top of the goalkeeper. And as his header comes back across, yeah. The reason Fujino is able to get to that ball is that she's in an offside position. I think there, the smirk on her face indicates she knew she was in an offside position that whole time. So Korea have this free kick now. Well, this is going to be checked. I'm not really sure what it could be checked for. Decision is no goal from the VAR room. Well, that really would have put the nail in the coffin for Korea. A moment of respite, but there's still a lot of work to do in this game if they want to try and turn it around. Well, back well in there, high up the pitch here by Japan. Here's Hamano. Wide to Takahashi. Can she create space for the cross? Carries it past Jang. The cutback is blocked and Korea now can look to carry this forward. Here's Park. Just nowhere to go here for Park and runs it out of play. Takahashi takes the throw in first. Takes it quickly. Hamano. Back to Takahashi. Pass inside to Miyazawa. Nagano. Apparently VAR were also checking a penalty there. But I think that's just someone pressing the wrong graphics. Ball round the corner, and that's one back well, and knocked out of play by Kim Hae-ri. Shori says, I've seen Kitagawa and Hasegawa play better. Yeah, I mean, it's not been vintage, I guess, from certain individuals, but I think it's still been so strong from Japan. I think they've done really well to put Korea under pressure and then capitalise on those mistakes. And I think if you look at both those goals, Hamano should never have got out of that position to be able to shoot from that angle. Should never have scored from that angle either. But it was just too weak from Jang Seol-gi, and there was two players. It was Jang Seol-gi and Park Soo-jung. How do you let Hamano out of that position? It baffles me that she was able to wriggle away from that and fire at the near post. But again, I mean, testament to the quality of Maika Hamano and the hard work there. Just didn't give up on the ball and was rewarded, really, with the goal at the end of it. And then, of course, the first goal was just a mistake playing out from the back from South Korea. So, I mean, yeah, I think Japan have not, I mean, it's not they've played badly at all, but I think they've been a little bit sluggish in a sense. Or not their perfect standard, I should say. And then they've done really well to capitalise on Korea mistakes. But again, both those mistakes they forced with how aggressively they pressed up the pitch. So, yeah, not been bad by any stretch. John here, just feeling the effects there of that strong challenge. It seems to be the shoulder there for Jeon. It's just pulled back when goes in for this challenge. Gets the ball and I think, oh, a nasty one there on a right arm. No intention, but it does look to be quite uncomfortable here for Jeon. It's going to play on. But yeah, just went in for the challenge and her arm got stood on there. I think it's Hinata Miyazawa. Again, no intention from the Japanese midfielder. Just sort of fell on top of Jeon as she went in with a strong tackle. Taka Fuji, welcome to the stream. Says, go Japan. Well, they've been very good so far. They've done very well so far to put themselves in this position. Ueki, good hold up, clipping it to Kitagawa, who I think quite bizarrely there, taking on a bit of a shooting opportunity, was never going to, or would have taken something spectacular. Score from there, and the low driven shot was blocked. Nagano now lifting over the top, headed away by No Jin Young. Now Jang, wide to Park. Park looks down the line. One back in here by Toko Koga. Ball flicked through the lines. Hasegawa nowhere to go, but she does want to side a throw-in, which she'll take quickly. Bounces with Hamano. Now back to Toko Koga. Kumagai. Just surveying here her options, Saki Kumagai. Now Koga. It's been interesting to watch Kumagai at this tournament because I think she's really struggled with the pace of the WSL. But she's looked really good for Japan. Lovely give and go here in this wide area. Hasegawa looped in by Hamano. Cleared away to the edge of the box. And now it's Korea wriggling free with possession. Muniunju. And that's a great challenge in there from the recovering Hasegawa. Nagano now. Here's Aoba for Gino. Kitagawa. Across now to Kumagai. Miyazawa into Hasegawa. Lifting it now, looking for Gino. Just can't quite find the finishing touch. And now Japan trying to find something in the final third. Here's Miyazawa. Back across to Nagano. Nagano. Forced back now to Kumagai. Koga through the lines, dropping off to receive. Miyazawa now plays it into Ueki. Ueki rolls, looking to the left, tries a back heel in there. And that would have been lovely if it came off, but slightly misplaced. And now Nagano. Kitagawa. Trying to play that ball over the top. Just a bit, doesn't come to much. Richard says the announcer was talking about how Japan is probably the 4th or 5th ranked team in the world. Americans say that the Japanese are their toughest competition. Their teamwork is beautiful. Yeah, I would just, if we were looking at the next World Cup, I would say that England and Spain are stronger favourites, which is why I would probably have it that way round. But yeah, I don't think there's loads in it at all. I think they're very strong sides. I just think I think the physicality is where Japan are slightly let down. And again, there's not much they can do about that. They're such a fantastic technical side. They combine so incredibly well. But yeah, it's just the physicality really where they struggle to match up really to the top teams. But yeah. Apologies there, slight problem with my stream. I seem to be back fine now. And luckily, neither side has scored in the meantime. Sorry, says the match against Australia will look fairly similar, I think. What to this game? I'm very surprised by how Korea have played here because it's something they haven't done all tournament. They've become incredibly defensive. And I just don't think... I understand why you think that way. You know, we sit deeper, we'll try and withstand some pressure, maybe we'll break away. But I think they'd have been better if they actually tried to play the way they have in every other game this tournament. Because they just haven't got the ball forwards at all. So even if by some miracle they hadn't conceded by this point, under so much pressure, they haven't offered an attacking threat. And you're just inviting so much pressure on yourselves. I don't think it was the right decision from Shin Sang-woo. Whereas I think Australia will probably play the same way they have all tournament because it has been rather defensive. If you look at how they've set up against North Korea, if you look at how they set up against China, that setup is much much more better suited really to playing a game like Japan. But yeah, I don't think it'll be... I don't think they'll concede 2 in the first half if Japan do see this game out and get to the final. Korea have just made, I think, too many mistakes, really, in their own third. Koga. Forwards into Hamano. Lovely turn there from Takahashi as it's knocked out of play. Wali says the Japanese are formidable. Yeah, they do play incredible football. Such a strong nation, such a strong team here. Hasegawa around the corner, picked off well in there by Kim Shin-ji. Back now to Kim Hae-ri under pressure. Great pressure there from Fujino. Wasn't actually attempting to challenge for the ball, but just by being that presence on the back of Kim, Kim Hairi had nowhere really to go, or just felt under the pressure, so tried to spin. It's never going to come off. Nagano into Miyazawa. Now Kitagawa knocking it down the line for Gino. Back to Kitagawa. Kumagai, Koga looking forwards. Here's Hamano. And back now to Toko Koga. Kumagai. Marks as 82,000 predicted for the final. What an atmosphere. And that'll, of course, play a part as well. If Australia can get their home fans on side and create a really strong atmosphere, that can absolutely make a difference in that game. Nagano. Now Miyazawa across to Aoba for Gino. Just can't quite keep her shot down there. Set up to the strike well. Opens up the body to try and curl to the far post. And just gets a little bit too much lift on it. Just gets under the ball a little bit too much. A change here for South Korea. And I think this forced by injury. Jeon's been struggling since she fell fairly nastily on her arm. And so it's Son to come on and lead the line. Son Hwa-yong. Ball played forwards. Looking for Mooney and Ju. Picked out in there. Now Maika Hamano. Nagano. Hamano. Try to slip it through the lines and that'll run right through to the Korea goalkeeper Kim Min-jung. South Korea building out. Kim Min-jung. As they'll look to build out now. Launching it long, and again, Nagano winning it in midfield. One back here, and then Son giving it away. Good pressure from Mooney and Ju. Squeezed back to Ayaki Yamashita. Locus says Australia will have to dominate the game to beat Japan, at least a 2-0 buffer. And Shori says that Japan needs so many chances to score. Yeah, but when you create so many, it doesn't really matter if that's the case. 11 shots, 5 on target. And they've given up barely anything. 2 shots off target so far, and that's it from South Korea. Ball down the line. Ueki back inside for Gino's in. Akers here. So much time to gear up for the shot. And opens up her body and coolly dispatches to the far corner. This is quickly getting out of hand from Japan. A dominant display. And another well-worked goal. Ueki pulls wide to receive. And no one reacts for South Korea. They push 2 players wide. It opens up a chasm of space here as the ball goes down the line. No one picking up the run of Aoba for Gino, who opens up her body and fires around the goalkeeper. Great technique on the shot. And another wonderful move from Japan. It's so intelligent and it's so naive there from Korea. Ko Yoo-jin chases the run of Ueki, vacating so much space. No Jin-young doesn't react. Kim Hae-ri is trying to drop to the player receiving the ball, Ueki, rather than following the run inside. And this chasm of space opens up then in the central area, which we just see Fujino saunter into, really. And she's in a great position to receive the ball. No one can close her down quick enough And that allows her the time to open up her body, fire across goal. And again, she's never a player who needs a load of power for Gino. VAR are checking this though. So let's go and have a look at the monitor. So I think this might get disallowed. And I was a little surprised when I saw VAR were checking this, because I wasn't sure what for. But it does appear to hit Hikaru Kitagawa's arm in the build-up. Let's have a look now. I mean, it's not, it doesn't have a huge impact, does it? But it does hit her hand. And then she wins the ball and is able to play it down the line. So yeah, I think this will get disallowed. It's not directly involved in the goal, but I feel Korea would feel hard done by here if this isn't chalked off. Unfortunate for Japan, it's a lovely, well-taken goal, lovely move, but I think this will be disallowed here. Referee coming across with their verdict now, and the chalk goal is chalked off. So it's back to Korea 0, Japan 2. And they're frustrated by that one. I mean, Korea celebrate it as though they've scored a goal because they know that's some sort of lifeline. But yeah, just hitting the arm of Kitagawa in the build-up to that goal. Danny Boy, welcome to the stream. Says, hey, Pepsi man, thank you. Appreciate it. Says, in your opinion, do Australia defend and hold structure better than Korea? Do you think Australia can only win if they have a large crowd and strong atmosphere? What do you think Australia do? I think, 4 minutes of additional time as well. Chance for Korea now, just wide from Park. Can't quite find the target with her effort. And that, another opportunity. Great defending from Koga, just makes that difficult really. Tries to fire around Toko Koga. Can't find the target. I think the way that Australia can get something against Japan is by, they need to be combative in midfield. I think they'll probably play Van Egmond, Kennedy and Gorey. And then you've got to be physical in midfield, because we've seen a lot this game where Korea are trying to go long and it drops in midfield and it's just Japan win it, or Japan win it pretty much unopposed at the moment. You've got to try and make that more difficult. I really liked what Australia were doing against China, which was obviously pushing players forwards for their goal kicks. Because a lot of what Korea were doing tonight was trying to build out, and then immediately it doesn't really work. So they launch it long. And when they do that, their team just aren't in a position to challenge that ball. I didn't think it worked incredibly well against China, but if you think about it in the context of a Japan game, if Australia can push all their team forwards and then kick it long, they're going to have that physical advantage to win the football in the Japan half, and that gives them a chance then to combine it and create opportunities. Ultimately, if you get Kerr into a position to score, she will score. That's a big difference as well, is that I think that Australia have those quality players who are very difficult to stop, regardless of how good you are. Kitagawa a little unlucky here to not concede a foul, as Money and Dew is going to need treatment after a late challenge from Kitagawa. But yeah, I think they've got to be defensively solid, Australia, which is my big concern, because I think they've been pretty poor back at the back this tournament. And I think that centre-half partnership up against the Japan attack, I wouldn't feel confident in Australia's ability to defend. But we'll see what happens. Again, I think they've just got to try and be physical. They've got to make it a very bitty game. If you try and play football against Japan, or you give them too much respect, they're just going to run rings around you. As we're watching here, I think Korea they haven't tried to play football. They've given them way too much respect, way too much time on the ball. And they've not closed them down quick enough. They've not been able to. They've just been dragged around the field. But I think you've got to disrupt Japan any way you can. And if that is like little fouls here and there, if it is something on those lines, that I think is the only way Australia can try and get something from the game, is just frustrate it, make life very difficult for Japan. Ball now with Son carrying it forwards. One back by Kitagawa. Hamano. Trying to carry it to the right-hand side. Not how to play well. Thrown for Japan on the far side then. Hamano over to take. And Japan here with, South Korea with a second substitution before the half. I mean, that is a massive waste of a stoppage. South Korea now they've got one stoppage in the second half for subs. Surely you just wait there till half time and then bring G on, because then you don't use the stoppage. She's going to come on for 30 seconds here. Okay. I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is there from Shin Sang-woo. I think that is I guess it's forced through the injury, actually, isn't it, of Moon Eun-ju, but yeah, surely you just hold on with 10 for a moment, use the stoppage at half time. But I guess that's the other issue of making that sub first half. And I know they've struggled with 2 injuries there, but they haven't got many stoppages now to use. Kitagawa. Fujino into Hasegawa. Email says Japan's likely to win by a 6-goal margin. I don't see that happening. I think it would require a huge capitulation from Korea in the second half. That, though, is the half-time whistle. Japan in full flow at the moment. Korea 0, Japan 2 at the break. Goals from Riko Ueki and Maika Hamano give Japan a strong lead going into half-time. And what can Korea muster up in the second half to try and turn things around? That's what we'll have to wait and see. But at the break, it's South Korea 0, Japan 2. We'll keep your questions coming in the live chat. We've got 15 minutes now. We'll talk about that first half and anything else you guys want to ask. First question coming in, though, Rio saying, has Skinner been playing Miyazawa out of position? I don't think so. I think it's been really good for Hinata Miyazawa to play a different role. I mean, obviously, we remember her at the 2023 Women's World Cup where she picked up the Golden Boot playing on the left wing, I think it was. And she was so good in that tournament, huge breakthrough tournament. Moved to Manchester United, moved around a couple of positions in the early days, was ultimately played in the base midfield alongside Ziggiotti, and that's what we've seen, or alongside Janssen, last season, now with Yulia Ziggiotti. It was kind of a forced change. United don't have many midfielders, but I think it's been really good for Miyazawa because, as we've seen now, she's developed her game in so many different aspects. So when we watch her now play for Japan, she's got that attacking instinct and that ability to create in the final third, but she can also drop in and do defensive work. She can also drop in and be the ball progressor. She can drop in and receive under pressure. All those skills have come from her playing in that kind of role at United. So that's been really important for her development. And, I mean, she's a really good midfielder, a really good player alongside Ziggiotti. We saw United's midfield in the League Cup final on Sunday, how they couldn't really compete with Chelsea. And I think a big part of that was not having Hinata Miyazawa. I think if you've got someone in there who can disrupt the flow, someone who can make those interceptions, someone who can progress the ball better, that may have well made the difference. So that was a big loss for United. But yeah, I think she's developed so much as a player under Mark Skinner. I don't think people give Skinner credit for it. I think there's a lot of things people don't give Skinner credit for. It's easier to just discredit him, but I think he's been so important to Miyazawa's development, and I think he's made her a much more well-rounded footballer. So, no, I think Miyazawa, I think Skinner's done really well with Hinata Miyazawa. But I see people's frustrations because it'd be great to see her in a more attacking position for United and see if she can offer something in those attacking positions. But they don't really have any other midfielders, and she's been really good in that role. So I don't really blame Skinner for not being able really to use her in a more attacking role. So yeah, I think Skinner's actually done really well for Miyazawa. Danny said, I agree, Australia need to hold more ball possession and control midfield, be disruptive. Absolutely, that's going to be so important in the final. Ayn Rose saying, is Australia's, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, he says, is Australia's current coach good? Feels like the performance has been pretty off this tournament. I think Australia's performance has been very typical of Joe Montemuro. So if you think back to Montemuro's sides of the past, he was Arsenal manager for a few years, I want to say between 2018, around 2018, just before that, and then just after that, but that's sort of 2017 to 2020 period, I want to say, for Montemuro, and then it was Eindhoven. If you think back to that team, if you think back to the OL Lyonnais team last season that he was coaching, they have a very distinctive style of play, and I don't think it's very well set up for knockout football. It is very patient, it is very ball dominant, it relies on it relies on having a lot of possession but not a lot of penetration. And actually what happened a lot last season at Lyonnais is that teams that were really good out of possession were able to shut them down quite effectively. Now, because Lyonnais have some of the best players in the world, they had no issues domestically because they have relative quality over their domestic rivals, no issues domestically. They were able to create opportunities fairly freely. And even in the Champions League against weaker opposition, they didn't really have any problems. Where they came undone, though, is if you look at that semi-final match against Arsenal, Arsenal set up well defensively, and they didn't have a tactical solution, Lyonnais, to break through that. And we saw them try to do Monet in midfield to try and create overloads in those pocket positions, but they couldn't penetrate that Arsenal team. And ultimately, Arsenal went on to win that game. Really well managed by Slagers. And I think there are two fundamental problems with the way Montemuro sets up. And one of them is his lack of adaptability. He is a very experienced manager, yet he doesn't seem to have a plan B. He's very stubborn in his ways, very I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it, very not pragmatic. I can't think of what the word would be, but he doesn't think much on the fly, doesn't change much on the fly, very much stuck in this is how we set up, this is how we play, and sort of a believer in those principles. It doesn't, and when it doesn't come off, they don't really change much. I've seen that a bit with Australia at this tournament, where actually, instead of changing things tactically, he's relied on personnel changes, and that has had some mild success. I think when you look at that midfield three, different profiles can make that midfield function very differently. So when they were starting it earlier in the tournament, and they had Gorey, Van Egmond and Wheeler, there were a lot of issues with that because you don't really have anyone in there that is very creative, and you don't have anyone in there who's dropping between the centre halves. And that's a slight change they've made at this tournament that's done really well, is bring Kennedy into that defensive midfield position. She can drop then and then be the centre half, but also be that defensive cover. And that's freed up the other midfielders to have a bit more creative freedom. They brought Cooney Cross back into the side, and they have looked a lot better for it. But I think they're often too slow, and that's what Japan will look to punish in the final if they get through the second 45 minutes here, is that slowness in possession. Because what we've seen a lot of this tournament for Australia is that they get pressed so aggressively, and teams are able to generate those high turnovers and create opportunities from them. Now, they got a little bit lucky, I thought, against North Korea, where they were matched very much physically, and North Korea missed so many chances. Again, I think one of Australia's biggest strengths is their clinicality. Both their knockout round matches, they've not had double digits for shots, and they've had, I think, 3 shots on target in the semi-final, 2 shots on target in the quarterfinal, and they scored 4 goals across those 2 matches. So they're very clinical because they've got Sam Kerr, who is one of the best strikers in the world. So that's a really important part of their system, or their team. But yeah, I think systematically, I do have doubts over Montemuro. So it's always intriguing. But yeah, Woza says, you just have a good offer from the BBC or some other corporate media. Thank you so much. Would love to work in that kind of environment. But yeah, thank you so much for the compliment. Haywire says, Japan struggle against physical and aggressive teams. Generally, that's the edge European teams like England have against them. Yeah, I completely agree. I think, but again, it's pretty much simply a genetic issue. Their players are slightly shorter than the average European team, slightly less physical than average European team. It's why they're so good technically, though, because they're so agile. They are the diminutive players tend to be more agile, tend to have a better rotation. You're able, because you're closer to the ground, so you're able to rotate easier, and that's what we've seen. I mean, look at some of the movements for Japan, the sort of deft rolls around a corner, roll off a player, the pulling into the pockets, the movement. It's so strong and so effective, and they are able to generate the space so well. Ueki pulling wide, Fujino pushing inside. That little combination where they don't even have the ball, but it creates the space. It's such intelligent play from Japan. It's why they create those sort of situations, and it's why they are able to draw teams out so effectively, and they play so well against low blocks. But as you say, physically they do struggle, and I think where they're let down is often in the midfield, where because you don't have that bite, you can't really control the game in the way that Japan would want to. When they have possession, they're great and they can play through the lines. And when they get to the final third, though, again, those crosses into the box aren't going to be so effective. If you're up against a team who are taller than you, who are stronger than you, they're going to rise up to it and head the ball away. So that's often a bit of a letdown for Japan, but I don't think it means they can't go on and win things. Again, we've seen technically gifted sides win competitions before, win World Cups before. Again, it's about striking a balance. And I think that's perhaps where they do struggle, because if you think about Spain, for example, and probably now the US, but Spain particularly, Spain are obviously incredible technically, arguably the same level as Japan or even slightly ahead when you consider some of the players they've got. But they've also got very physical players, and that makes such a big difference. Having Patrick Gallardo, who is both a incredibly intelligent and technical footballer, but also very physical, is such a big difference. Having a backline with players, I know Mappe Leon hasn't played much in the national team in recent years, but even Irene Paredes, having players like Ona Battier, who's both physical, but again, so good technically. Having those hybrid players is so important, and I just think Japan don't quite have those physical players. I think, like, look at Toko Koga, for example, has come into WSL this season and been very physical. So I think they've got players coming through who can be that, but they're never going to have a striker who is like, a Khadija Shaw, are they, for example? A player who is, or even like a Sam Kerr, big and physical and tall, and they just haven't had that in their history, have they, Japan? Even if you look across at the men's team and think about their players, that's a big thing that's always let the men's team down, is that they're just not as physically strong or imposing. But they're so technically gifted that there's every chance they can go in and win the World Cup. But yeah, I just think when you look at teams like Japan, when you look now as well at the US of course have Emma Hayes now in as manager, and you think they're going to become a lot more tactically minded, and I think that will benefit them massively. That's going to be really interesting to see then how they shake out. But yeah, they're obviously I think the most physical side really, the US, when you think about how they've played historically. I think their league is built on athleticism. It's built on player quality in individuals, whereas you've got leagues like the WSL that are much more technical. I think it's very much built on physicality and athleticism. And that helps the team. When you then apply that into a context of national football, where you've got Emma Hayes in there as manager, it does make up for what could be a very formidable partnership. But yeah. Jeremy says, I wonder if the pressure of being captain is adversely affecting Hasegawa's play. I don't think she's done too much wrong, though. I think, some of her best games for Man City, Hasegawa, is when you don't notice her, because she just does the simple stuff, and that platforms some great players to perform. And I think she's doing that again in this kind of game, where a lot of her movement is very selfless. She's pulling into positions where she may not receive the ball, but it creates space for others. And that may not be abundantly clear from the start. But if you just watch Yui Hasegawa in this game, you'll see her creating the space for her teammates. And so, yeah, I agree she hasn't perhaps had the contributions that she would want at this tournament. But when Japan have dominated games in the way that they have, she's evidently not letting them down. Like, I think still a key part of that system, allowing some other players to shine. And yeah, I think she still plays a huge role in allowing that. So, yeah, no, I don't think, while she hasn't got the goals or assists, that's not necessarily Hasegawa's game. I know she does she does often offer that in the national team, but the Hasegawa that I've watched play in the WSL for the last few years is very much a very selfless player who allows the rest of her team to go and get the goals, and she does the hard work, and she gives them the ball to go and perform. And I think she's doing that more now for the Japanese national team. When you look at some of the players around her who've thrived at this tournament, that attack now, Fujino had a goal ruled out, but everyone else in that attack has notched up a contribution apart from Hasegawa. And that's not because Hasegawa's playing badly, but it's because she allows her teammates to perform in that kind of way. So, yeah, I haven't had any concerns over Hasegawa's performances. I think she's looked really good. And, yeah, she's had an incredible season. Is there an argument? I'll pose this question over in the chat. Is there an argument for Hasegawa for Ballon d'Or? Because if Japan win the Asian Cup and City win the league, there's not too much more she could have done there. I think there's absolutely an argument. I think the only thing that could let her down is if, like, Barcelona in the Champions League or Lyonès in the Champions League, in which case it'll probably go to one of their players because they'd have won the league and Champions League double. But I think it would be hugely disrespectful to the Asian Cup for Hasegawa not to be in there because of winning it. Because if a team wins the Euros or a team wins the World Cup, they'd instantly be top of the pile in terms of consideration for the Ballon d'Or. I think it would show a huge disrespect. And so, this is FIFA, but, well, not really, but it is the Ballon d'Or. They're not particularly, they don't care that much about women's football, as we've seen in recent years. But I think it would be a crying shame if Hasegawa was not right up there for the Ballon d'Or. It's been incredible for Manchester City this season, so instrumental to their success domestically. And, I mean, if Japan win this Asian Cup as well, I think she's got to be in that conversation. And we don't really see players like Hasegawa win the Ballon d'Or. I mean, I know we've got Aitana Bonmati, but Bonmati's much more of an attacking midfielder. Whereas for City, I know she's had more of an attacking role this season, but Hasegawa is traditionally a bit more of a defensive midfielder. I think it'd be awesome to see her win it. But, yeah, let me know in the live chat. Do you think Hasegawa could win the Ballon d'Or? Do you think she should win the Ballon d'Or? Either way, about to get underway for this second half. Japan looking to kick on with their 2-goal advantage. South Korea, well, they've got a mountain to climb if they want to get back into this game and reach a second consecutive final. What can Korea offer? Can they do anything different to that first half? Changes right at the end of the first half, obviously, with Ji So-young coming on. What impact can she have? And we are back underway for another 45 minutes here in Sydney. We've enjoyed a great first half there from Japan. What can Korea do now to respond in the second? Here's Jang, plays it inside. Lovely move around the corner from Jung. Doesn't quite come off there, but a good chance from Park to recover possession and poked forwards well there by Jun Min-young. Kumagai. Kitagawa lifting it towards Toko Koga. Good pressure here from Park. Squeeze to Takahashi. That looked like it left the field of play, and it has. Great pressure there from Korea, forcing the mistake. And now Korea moving across. Here is Ko Yoo-jin knocking it down the line for Park. He wants to come down the right-hand side. Good defending. Another change, by the way, for Korea. I think they've gone back then to the 4-4-2. Kang Chae-rim introduced. And Chu Hyo-jo taken out of the side. So that's much more of an out-and-out winger in what was kind of a wing-back role in the first half. So I do wonder if that is a move back towards the 4-4-2 they've been using throughout this tournament. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It definitely looks like they've gone back to the 4-4-2. They should never have changed it, in my opinion. Big mistake. Taking players like G, taking players like Kang Chae-rim out. I just don't think it was. I don't think it was ever going to work. I think just a manager in a big game overthinking it. And it may, I think it's just put this game a little bit out of touch. It'll be interesting to see how they get on the second half. Obviously, with the added caveat of the fact Japan don't need to score again. But Korea have definitely started this second half much more positively. Jasper asks, do you think this game will go over 3.5 goals? I don't know. I think Korea will tighten things up. I don't think Japan will run riot in the second half. Free kick here for Japan. Kitagawa, I think, just pulled back there. Pass back now to Kumagai. Now Koga. Carrying it forwards to the right-hand side. Options in front of her. Hasegawa. Now Nagano. Takahashi, lovely fake out wide and just rolls it inside. A pass into Miyazawa's good. Miyazawa tries to flick it around the corner quickly. Can't quite find Hamano. It's out of play. Here is Jang. Throws down the line. Takahashi gets ahead to it. Ueki flicks round the corner. Here is Hinata Miyazawa. Miyazawa breaking into the penalty area. Cuts it to the edge of the box. Fujino's going to get there. Forced to pull it wide though. Now carrying forwards. Lifts it into the box. Not much height on it. It's cleared away. Falls for Takahashi. And her shot scuffed wide. Just got that one all wrong really. Takahashi. As she went up to strike it. And unable to find the target. Building out again then are South Korea. Ball goes long towards the right hand side. Kangchae rim. That's cut out well. Asagawa. Well dealt with there in midfield by Kim Shin-ji. And now the pressure from Fujino. Takahashi just trying to, not Eugene, sorry, trying to see it out. Clipped down the line by Kim. And now Japan with the throw-in, taken quickly, and they move it back all the way to Ayaka Yamashita. Here's Koga. Carrying it down the line. Here's Hamano, looks to drive inside. Forced back to Toko Koga. Takahashi holding the width well. Inside now to Hamano in the pocket. Round the corner, tidily into Hinata Miyazawa. Wants to carry this ball forwards now. And just forced to the ground. Hamano, lovely control there. Taking it past Ji So-young. Wide with Fujino, who comes inside of the ball. Ball towards Hamano, whose acrobatic attempt to win back possession is admirable, but can't quite hold on to possession. And Korea now coming forwards. Kim Shin-ji lifting towards the right-hand side. Just doesn't quite get the lift on that she would have wanted to, and it's cut out well by Hikaru Kitagawa. Koga. Takahashi. Into Hamano, looks down the line. Played forwards by No Jin-young. Now Hamano. Ueki poking wide. Fujino, can she get the shot away? Does so. And it's a good save from Kim Min-jung. Did really well to get down to that one. And now launching it forwards. Kim Shin-ji. Here's Jang. Now with Ueki. Into Nagano. Nagano could take aim from this angle, just wide of the far post. And just couldn't quite find the target there. Fuka Nagano. Not a bad attempt on goal, just wide of the far post. Dan says, thanks Pepsi Man for your intelligence in your show. I think the final game will be interesting to watch. And will definitely be a joy if my fellow Aussies can get some goals. Looking forward to the game. Yes, make sure to join us here on Saturday. We'll be live from 8:45 UK time for that one. 15 minutes ahead of the kickoff. And yeah, should be a great fixture, great matchup between the two sides. It looks now that it will be Japan and Australia, unless Korea come out to come back in the last 38 minutes. Make sure to join there. And if you are new and have enjoyed this show, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road towards 10,000 subscribers by the end of the domestic season. So if you want to support us towards that goal, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. Hamano plays it forwards. Takahashi tries to cut it back. And it's blocked away well by No Jin-young. And out. I think that may have come off Takahashi in the end anyway. Hamano played it forwards. No Jin-young comes across well. And yeah, Takahashi tries to scoop it back across goal. Blocked by No Jin-young. Back in Takahashi. And off for a goal kick, and they're building out from the back now, and they're under a fair bit of pressure here. Jang clipped up the line by No Jin Young. Lifted again forwards from Sun. But no one up there to try and compete for it. Here's Ayaka Yamashita. Into Nagano here. Just had way too much time and space really in the pivot there. Miyazawa running herself into trouble and ends up drawing the free kick. I think now we're seeing Korea start to pack out the midfield more, and that's what they should have done from the start. You've got to give Japan as little space in central areas as possible, because if you force them wide and they've got to put crosses into the box, then suddenly you create yourselves a bit of an advantage, because you've got taller defenders than Japan have got attackers. You know, it's not like they're Man City and they've got a Shaw or something who they can aim for, and that's always going to be a threat. Or Australia in this competition, who Carpenter swinging balls into Kerr is the worst thing you want. You've got to limit Japan playing in central areas. This is something Australia should be taking note of heading into the final. Is watching how Japan start their build up wide and then push it inside as quickly as possible. They want to get into zone 14. Once they're in there, they combine really well in those kind of areas. And I think that's got to be something Australia look to stop as quickly as possible, or as much as possible, is Japan getting into that zone 14, getting into central areas. As soon as they get there, what can you do to stop them? You've got to pack out those areas to do that. You've got to play narrow, you've got to play compact, you've got to make it as difficult as possible, but you've got to have a transitional threat as well. So it's going to be interesting. I imagine Australia will play 4-3-3 like they have throughout this tournament. I think the wingers will be a bit deeper and probably 4-5-1. I think that midfield three is going to have to be tight to each other. And I think they've got to be combative in there and try and make it a very physical game. But we'll see. Korea there, drawing the foul, and here's Kim. Kim Hae-ri. Looking forward at her options. And just lifting it there towards the attacking players. Koga, though, winning the header. And smart stuff from Jun, just to lift that back. Kim knocks it down the line. That's how to play. Rolls out for a throw-in. Japan looking to go down the line. And that's one back in midfield well, and Korea can look to come forwards now. Kim Shin-ji. Back to Ko. And Ko knocking it back to Kim Min-jung. Again here, Kim surveying her options across into Ko Yoo-jin. Now Kim. No Jin Young. Down the line into Jang, and that's picked off well by Miyazawa. And back in there by Jang, reversed well by Park, but it's picked off by Takahashi, who worked hard to get there. Now Koga. Back into Kumagai. Koga. Wide into Takahashi. Takahashi swings it in towards the back post. Kim does enough there to get a touch, and it's out for a Japan corner. And what can they do again here? We've seen Japan have a couple of corners in this game. Haven't offered us much threat. There's been some decent deliveries, but no one really getting on the end of them. Yui Hasagawa then. Lifted towards the back post. Takahashi gets ahead to it. Drops now for Hamano, who will lift it in towards the back post. Picked off well by Kim Min-jung. That's a lovely delivery from Maika Hamano. Just couldn't quite find a teammate in there. No Jin Young back to Kim Min-jung. And now out to the right-hand side, Ko Yoo-jin. Lifting the ball forwards. Drops now. For Kang Chae-rim switching the play. Jang knocks it in behind. An opportunity as Park breaks, squares the ball, and Yamashita. Great proactive goalkeeping. That was a nice move from South Korea. But some really smart goalkeeping prevents that from being very dangerous for Japan. Yamashita off her line well. And just read the play better than anyone else. Did Ayaka Yamashita. Good goalkeeping. Kumagai. Back to Yamashita. Now Koga. Again, looking for the forward option. Plays into Ueki. Brilliant turn from Riko Ueki. Here's Hasegawa now. Knocks it one more into Aoba for Gino. Fujino delays, waiting for the overlap. Not coming quick enough. Tries to come inside. Space not really emerging. Now with Miyazawa. One back by Kim, who knocks it down the line and works. Son works hard, but it ends up coming off Son and out for a Japan throw-in. Carried down the line well by Kitagawa. Ueki bounces it back there to Fujino. And now for Hamano, who fires straight down the throat to the goalkeeper. A decent claim from Kim Min-jung. Building out once more. Korea now. Back with Kim Min-jung. And a pass down the line. Jung Min-young back now to Kim Min-jung. Miyazawa into Hamano. Back to now to Miyazawa. Kitagawa looks down the line for Gino now. Back inside to Yui Hasegawa. And now Hikaru Kitagawa. Nagano for Gino. Carrying the ball inside. It's brought down in there. Free kick now for Japan. Lovely move again there from Nadeshiko. And, well, for Gino, darting between players, clipped by two of them. And brought down for the free kick. Half an hour to go here then. I think Korea have done a much better job in the second half. I think, as I said, the 4-4-2 was a much smarter choice. I think they've been able to defend much better without going player to player in the back line. I think going player to player just left them way too open. It's way too easy to sort of pull individuals away from their markers with how intelligent Japan's movement is. But instead, they've defended space much better. And that's made it much more difficult, I think, for Japan. Helps, of course, that as well, it's worth saying that Japan obviously already have the advantage. There's no incentive for them to really keep pushing on. But yeah, I still think it's been a much better second half. Hamano lifts it in there. A header at the front post from Ueki. Cannons off the crossbar. And ends up bouncing out for a goal kick. A lovely routine here. Ueki rising high, unable though to find the target. Ko Yoo-jin. No Jin Young. Now Jang looking down the line. Hamano does well. Poking it out of play. Japan, though, still dominated. Despite Korea getting back into this game a bit. Still dominated statistics. 18 shots in this match overall. 7 of which have been on target. Korea just 3 shots, none on target. Kitagawa knocks it back to Ayaka Yamashita. Now Toko Koga drilling the forward pass. Ueki opens up the body and lifts it to the left-hand side. Fujino with Kitagawa overlapping. Uses her teammate. Ball in across the face of goal. And no one in a Japan shirt able to get there. As it rolls out for a goal kick on the far side. And yeah, it's not a bad decision there. Right idea from Kitagawa. But ultimately couldn't find a teammate. No Jin Young. Switch off the play. Headed on by Code. And it's won back well by Fujino, who loses out though to Kang. Kang plays it forwards to Son. Back to Kim. Kim looks inside. Now forced short of options. Carries up the line and is brought down by Aoba Fujino. Looked a little late there from Fujino, but I think it's clean. Or deemed clean, but the referee may have been given a free kick there. Fujino offering some apologies. Yeah, just gets there late. So I think a free kick now for Korea. Kang takes it short. Jung Min Young surveying her options. Back again to Kang. Now Kim, lovely give and go. Kim Irie, and that's blocked out. That will be a corner now for South Korea. Anthony says, where is Heaney playing? Inatami Azawa is playing in the midfield 3. She's playing on the left-hand side usually. Oh, sorry, the right-hand side of the left midfield 3. But it's been very fluid. Nagano's been the base player pretty much. But they've swapped. And yeah, it's a very dynamic midfield. All 3 of the players in there are capable really of playing as the single pivot. All 3 players are capable of playing on either side as a more attacking player. Here is Kim Hae-ri then. Lifting the ball towards the back post, and Yamashita, good goalkeeping there. Sandwiched between 2 Korea players, but she rises highest. Gets up to it well. Headed away by Kim. Now Kang, back to Kim. Kim Shin-ji. Now Ko across to No Jin Young. Tries to lift it forwards and lifting it out of play. That'll be a Japan throw-in on this near side. And a change now coming, a double change I think coming for Japan. So that's going to be the end of the afternoon for Riko Ueki and for Maika Hamano. They'll be replaced by Momoko Tanikawa and Manakamatsu Kubo in the front line there. So a slight change in attacking roles. So I'm intrigued to see who's going to go where here. You'd think it'd be Matsu Kubo leading the line. And then I think Tanikawa may have gone to the left wing, or it may even be Miyazawa. Yeah, I think Miyazawa's gone to the left wing. Tanikawa's come into the midfield. That makes sense. Japan with the free kick now. G committing the foul. Hasegawa Now Takahashi on the right-hand side, looks down the line. And overhits it. Just trying to lift it in behind. Lloyd says, Hasegawa's looked a little off all tournament. Man City struggling on the weekend would not have helped. Yeah, someone else raised this earlier. I disagree to an extent. I don't think they've been miles. I don't think she's been miles off her level. I think she's been quite selfless and just allowed other players to thrive, really. And the team's been strong enough. I mean, the only thing letting her down is that she hadn't really got goals or assists. But I think in terms of performance, she's not been too far off what we'd expect from Yui Hasegawa. Tries to knock it forwards there. Poor pass, to be fair, from Yui Hasegawa there, as soon as I say that. Kim goes back now to Ko. Lovely pass inside there to Jung, who's under pressure here. Does well, though, to squeeze it back to the goalkeeper. No Jin Young. Pass wide now. Kim Shin-ji, now Ji So-young. Knocked wide again. And the ball going down the line. Kang tries to hold it up. Doesn't come to much. Hasegawa. Now Kitagawa back to Yamashita. Here is Kumagai. Koga. Yamashita. Back to Saki Kumagai. Koga. Flicked around the corner there from Fujino. One back in midfield here by Jung, and Korea coming forwards. Cut out by Nagano. Jung into Kang. He's brought down there. And I'm not sure which way they've given the free kick here, but Kang was fouled. And yeah, that will be a Korea free kick. Yeah, look, again, it's just slow decision making has been a real theme here of the Women's Asian Cup from officials. It's just been really slow to decide something, and that free kick there took ages after the actual foul to be given, and then it was just an unnecessary delay, really. And eventually it was double change here for South Korea, I believe. Kim Shin-ji making way, as is Jun Min-young. So it's going to be a double change in midfield, a bit more of an aggressive double substitution here, and it's Yuri and Hee-young. So they're going for this game a bit then. G over this free kick. I mean, if they're going to mount some sort of comeback, they need a goal now. Lifted in there, it bounces its way through. Here's Yuri. Ball in. Punched away by Yamashita and smashed clear by Takahashi and out for a corner. That's been given as a foul, I think, as Kumagai went across to deal with it, and Yuri just leaning into it is given as a free kick. I didn't think there was too much wrong with what Yuri did there. It's a little bit aggressive, but I don't think it was too bad. So yeah, free kick now for Japan right in this corner. Yamashita going to take some liberties of where that foul was committed and getting an extra 5 or so yards. Head out of play by Yuri. So Yuri coming onto the left-hand side. They've pushed Park as to one of the front two and dropped G into the midfield, by the looks of it. Definitely a more aggressive substitution, though. Fujino drawing a soft foul. Koga will take the free kick. Koga lifts forwards. Takahashi knocks it inside. And not quite able there to create the final opportunity, but it's not how to play. And so Japan now with this corner. If they could score now, it would just kill off the game, you feel. Korea has started to come back with a little bit of belief in the last few moments. Starting to threaten the goal, but if Japan score and find a third, you think that'll probably be the finishing touch needed to get them over the line. Ball in, and it is there. They score the corner, the keeper comes out, misses the ball, and that, you feel, is game, set, match for Japan. Han Kim Min-jung there engulfed by the celebratory smoke with a disappointed look on her face. She came for that quite aggressively there, the goalkeeper. Missed the ball. And you can't afford to miss that. And Saki Kumagai in the prime position to take advantage of it. And heads it into the empty net. South Korea 0, Japan 3. And that should be that, really. Korea haven't offered enough of a threat going forwards. They haven't been able to confine or constrict, really, Japan's attacking talent. And they're now being punished for it. A third goal. And barring some incredible turnaround in the last quarter of an hour, Japan will be finalists in the 2026 Women's Asian Cup. Taking on Australia on home soil. On their home soil. On Australia's home soil. Yuri trying to come inside. One back in there by Takahashi. And dragging down then Takahashi. But it's given as it's deemed fair. Ji So-young. Into Park. The overlapping run now of Jung towards the back post. Sent it away there as Jang's crossing able to find a teammate. Cleared out for a throw. Kim to come and take. Locus says, do you remember how Australia played against England friendly? That's how I think we could balance. Admittedly, that gave me false confidence we'd beat them in the World Cup. Locus says, Alana, rugby forward Kennedy did a number on Russo. Well, that friendly where... Was it Kennedy who got sent off in that game? It was Kennedy who got sent off playing centre-half, yeah. That friendly, it wasn't a good indicator. I assume we're talking about an earlier meeting. Ball forwards. Dealt with well there by Takahashi. Kitagawa. Now Yamashita. Headed one in there by Yuri. Squeezing the pass back into No Jin Young. Korea have started to play football now. They're 3-0 down, which is an odd choice to decide. Kang carries it inside well. Good hold up here from Son. Ball delivered in there. Kang takes save and squeezes it home. And Korea do have something here to believe in. Kang Chae-rim finding a goal. Picking up the ball and slotting it past Ayaka Yamashita. And that could be a catalyst for a little bit of late drama here. Ball played wide. And it found Kang Chae-rim, who spun on it well. And slots it home in the near corner. Yamashita at full stretch. Can't quite get there. And so, Korea have a lifeline. Changes coming for Japan. Ayoba Fujino will be removed it. And so it's going to be Fujino and Hasegawa to make way, saving them for the final. That's a little bit nervy now. And it's going to be Chima and Yamamoto. I think what we've seen Japan do really well at this tournament is rotate through their squad. They've used a lot of different players. And yeah, Ramina Chiba and Yazuki Yamamoto coming on. So can Japan just see out this game? Korea have given them something to think about with that goal. Realistically though, Japan still holding all the cards though. Yamashita. Now, Kumagai. But again, that's why that third goal for Japan is so important. If Kumagai doesn't score that and Korea do go on and get a goal, it's suddenly incredibly tight in the last 10 minutes. But Japan still have that cushion intact. Another goal, and maybe we start to wonder if this game hangs in the balance a little bit. But I think Japan's cushion still means they should be comfortable in the last 10 minutes. But Korea have got to throw everything they've got at this game. If they'd played like this from the start, what a game this could have been, what a matchup it could have been. And as Amon points out in the live chat, it's the first goal Japan have conceded at this tournament. Yeah, it's the first team they've played of any real quality, in my opinion. Or any competitive quality with the likes of Japan. Ball switch to the left-hand side. Can they get the shot away? Chiba fires across goal. And that settles it. For a moment, Korea had a lifeline. Korea had some hope. But that is taken out of their sails by that strike from Chiba. A lovely move there. From right to left from Japan. A switch of the play to find Chiba and Akers. Akers of space on the left-hand side. Opens up the shot and fires across goal on the left. That's a really nice move. And a lovely finish from Chiba. And I can say with some certainty now that Japan are Asian Cup finalists. A lovely performance today. I think Korea went too negative in the first half, and now they've pushed for the goal, obviously, and just conceded. And it's yeah, I mean, they had to go for the game, but yeah, they were just too negative and then too aggressive, really, in different stages. But Japan have been consistent, ruthless, clinical, and they just play with this innate precision. Such a strong technical ability, such a good understanding between the players. They've had a great tournament so far. I mean, if they can keep this up going into the final on Saturday, it's going to take something quite special from Australia to upset them. Japan have been in fantastic form. "17 goals scored in the group stage alone. They've added another 11 in the knockouts so far. That's 28 goals in 5 matches, 1 conceded. Frankly absurd. Averaging just under 6 goals a game. Ball in is cleared away well by Ko, and Kang now trying to carry the ball forwards. One back well by Yamamoto. Chiba just losing out in there, and the ball's cleared away. Miyazawa shrugged off too easily. Here's Yuri. Lovely give and go. And Yuri now carrying down the left-hand side, and she gets away from Toko Koga initially. Koga, though, closed the distance again. Yuri tries to squeeze it inside. One back in there well. And unable to keep that in is Yamamoto. And they're checking something here, VAR. I think as Yuri carried forwards, there was a strong challenge in the box, which I think was fair, but it may have been actually an incident involving, or it could actually be for the knock here. I don't know if they are checking it. Park was just looked like Park may have been brought down. I think it's just because of the fact she was fouled. Lovely finish from Chiba. Locus says my money's on Gory getting a red card. And Lloyd says Gory. No, I'll say Carpenter. Interesting. I don't think there'll be a red card. I think there is a Alana Kennedy. Strike across goal, save well there by Yamashita. And this was a nice move again from Korea. Moved it quite quickly after the throw-in. But Son's effort saved without too much issue. But yeah, I mean, testament, by the way, to Chinese Taipei. They are the only side to concede less than 4 goals to Japan at this tournament, which is utterly ridiculous. So well done to Chinese Taipei. Only lost 2-0 in the opening match day. Seems like a very handy result, knowing what we know now, seeing what we've seen in these other matches. Nagano into Koga. Ball goes down the line. Carrying it forwards now. Jiang. And here comes Japan looking for a 5th. Ball into the box, bouncing around, just about cleared away. Delivered by, oh, that's a great goal from Takahashi. And it is offside. I thought it was going to be. That's why I didn't say much. It was smashed in there by Takahashi. Looked like more of a shot. And it just hits Chiba, who redirects it well, but yeah, just stood in an offside position there. Was always going to be ruled out. But alas, change now coming for Japan, and that is going to be Risa Shimizu coming on to replace Hikaru Kitagawa. It'll be interesting to see what the Japan backline looks like for that Australia game. Will Shimizu come back in at right back? Do they keep Takahashi there? That's what I have to see. Lots of the change in expression was hilarious. Yeah, I'm hoping that becomes a meme on Woso Twitter. Of the way, of the joy on the face of Chiba, followed quickly by the disappointment that it was ruled offside. Here is Chiba again. Into Tanikawa. Chiba. Lovely switch to the play. Yasumoto in towards Tanikawa. Overhit. I mean, even their rotation players now, Japan, are just knocking the ball around with class. Korea building out from the back. Kim. No Jin Young. Back to Kim Min Jung. Yuri just losing out in there. Great hold up as the ball's knocked in behind, looking for Son. Takahashi. Physical in there from Yuri. Clipped up the line. Koyu Jim. Now Ji So-young. No Jin Young. Carried inside dangerously well by Kim Hae-ri. Now Ji So-young looking towards the right-hand side. Here's Kang. Carrying the ball forwards. Back to G. Son. Kang. Son. To Kang again. Lovely football from Korea. But good defending from Shimizu. Wins it back. Now Son again. Tries to find Kang. Kumagai under pressure. And that just over the line from Kang Chae-rim. Pulling a bit at Saki Kumagai. The referee having a word as we are into the 89th minute of the game. Lloyd says, look at all those empty front row seats, unsold because the tournament organisers held up for massive ticket prices. What are the ticket prices like? I mean, it's like, what, 20, I think it was 20 Australian dollars or something like that? Which I think for Australia games is kind of fair, but the problem is you've got to struggle to get the neutrals to go to every other match at that kind of price. And that's a bit weird if the Australia games are 20 Australian dollars and then the other matches are like 10 or whatever. But yeah. Ball carried forward, Jin Min Young. Now, no Jin Young out towards the left-hand side. Hit to Jiang, who looks inside. Lovely give and go. And Jiang looking for the pass backwards. Chiba, well held up. Strong challenge in there. As it's poked forwards. Opportunity now for Korea. Ji So-young. A shot now from range. Well saved by Ayaka Yamashita. Locus, thank you for clarifying your question. I was slightly confused by what you meant. I'll get to that in a moment. We've got 5 additional minutes in this game. 5 minutes of additional time. But, I mean, it would require something incredible for Korea to turn it around even in that time. So, yeah, Locus saying, do you think Chelsea will play Hamano next season? Absolutely, I do. I think the only reason she was loaned out is because, and now it seems stupid, right? Because the only reason she was loaned out is because Guro Ryoton and Kat Makara are at the club. And we knew they were leaving in the summer, but ultimately there was too many players there and they weren't all going to get minutes. So they loaned out Hamano, knowing she was at the Asian Cup anyway. And then they've let Wrighton go out on a loan and they've sold Kat Makaro this week. So it's now stupid because Chelsea now don't have enough attackers and Micah Hamano's at Tottenham. I don't know if there's a recall clause in her contract, I imagine not, but I think she comes back in the summer and she's involved in the setup. I think when you look at the positions that she can play on the right wing or in attack midfield, that right wing role next season I think is going to be tucking inside to allow Carpenter to overlap. And so that'll be something I think they look to build on. So they could use Hamano there. Pass now across to Takahashi, who's going to strike across goal. Misses at the near post. But yeah, I think Hamano will come back into Chelsea fold. I think she can, as I say, she can play on that right wing attacking inside. She could play in that attack midfield role, rotating with Lauren James, rotating with Vika Kaptein. I don't really. The problem is, and I want to do a video soon looking at what Chelsea should do next season. But the problem is, I've got no idea what setup Bon Pastor wants to use. Is it going to be the 4-2-3-1 that we saw last season? We've started to see brought back in recently. Is it going to be like the 4-3-3 that we've seen used recently with the false 9? Will she try again to use the 3 back when they actually have everyone fit? Will they try something with 2 strikers to fit Kerr, Beaver Jones and Ramirez in the same team or something? I really don't know. I sat down to try and put some notes together for that video and get my thoughts, and I just had no idea yet. So that I will do at some point before the end of the season, but because I want to talk about what I think Chelsea should do in the summer in terms of who they should let go, who they should move on, who they should look to sign, that kind of thing. But I'm lost at the moment as to what they're actually going to do. So I'm going to wait a few weeks, wait and see what they use in the Champions League games against Arsenal, wait and see what they use in some of the league games coming up, and then hopefully get a better understanding of how they're actually going to play. Because I have no idea at the moment. Carried wide well by Shimizu, pass inside is cut out. And here's G feeding it into Yuri. Can't quite find the pass forwards. Ball lifted over the top. Good work from Chiba, needs support now. And there is the offside flag. Lloyd mentioned the ticket price there. I was going to touch on that. It says $20 to be at the back. I paid $160 to guarantee a good seat to the first semi-final. They released them in drips and drabs. That's really high. That is ridiculously high for these games. I don't really know the difference between Australian dollars and UK dollars. It's too early in the morning. I don't know the difference between the Australian dollar to the UK pound, but that is really high. And yeah, I mean, you'd think they'd go FIFA Club World Cup about it, where they start selling them for like a tenner on the day. That was brilliant last summer, where they were just like, oh, we've not sold any, so if anyone wants to come in, just like give us a £5 on the gate. So poorly organised, that tournament. But yeah, offside there. And there's a big problem here for the striker. I didn't see who that was for Korea. Just went up for it. Seemed to get caught. Lloyd says $2 for £1. So £60 not too bad, to be fair. It's high. I think it's still a little bit high, but it's not too bad. I was thinking like, that's got like £100. Seems ridiculous, but yeah. G was just caught there in the box. There's an argument for a penalty here. They are going to check it. G just brought down in there by Takahashi. I think Takahashi's going to get away with one on that one. And yeah, Yamashita. It's just been told to wait here. They are going to have a look, I think. There. I mean, G's not too adamant, to be fair. Now, I think if I was trying to buy a penalty, I'd probably make a bit more fuss about it. But to be fair, it's not going to have much of an impact now on the result, is it? But yeah. They're still checking this. Jeremy says, will Shimizu go back to City? Personally, I think not. If she does, she'd be playing as a left back, because I don't think she could play that right back position, which is super aggressive. She could play the left back while tucking in. I don't think it's the worst idea, to be honest. It's whether or not she wants to go to City and be a rotation player, or go permanently to Liverpool, where we know Gareth Taylor wanted her at City. That's why she signed her. This should be a penalty. I think there should be a penalty, by the way. Takahashi doesn't get the ball and goes in late, and they are going to go, I think they're going to the monitor here. Yeah, I think this will be given as a penalty. Referee over to the monitor. It's not going to matter much for the result, but a chance for Korea to get another goal. But yeah, it depends what Shimizu wants. I could see her going to Liverpool and working with Taylor, because that seems to work really nicely, and she's played really well for them. But we'll see. Lucas talking about the Macaro deal for $8 million to San Diego Wave. Yeah, I was surprised more by the fee that Chelsea are to command. There's 3 months left on her contract, and San Diego Wave paid $300,000. That is ridiculous. Because is she going to repay? Because they could have signed her for free in the summer. Because yeah, her contract expires, right, Macaro? So they are willing to pay $300,000 to get her out of a contract 3 months early, when they could have signed her in the July period, to be fair. Now, there's an offside against G. That's why there's no penalty there then. I forgot to put the VAR graphic on the screen, but there we go. No penalty for Ji So-young. I think it was a foul, but it's been given as an offside. So Yamashita will launch it forwards. And that will be one of the last actions of the game. You would think we're well over the 5 additional. Obviously, a lot of that was VAR, so they'll try and make up some of it. But ultimately, this game is done, isn't it? Jiang. Back now to Kim Min-jung. Yeah, as Lois says, the Undercell worships big names. That US individualism thing. Ball flicked forwards and out of play. Throw in now for Japan. As the time ticks away, it's into the corner now, Japan. Just killing this game off. There we go, our scoreboard dies at 99. Brilliant stuff. And that is the final whistle in this match. Japan headed to the Women's Asian Cup final. A dominant tournament so far, compiled in a 4-1 semi-final victory. A brilliant showing from Nadeshiko as they progress to the final, where they will take on the hosts, Australia. Really impressive stuff from Japan in this tournament. 28 goals scored, 1 conceded so far. They've been ruthless, they've been dominant, and they're a win away from claiming their 3rd title in 4 editions of the Women's Asian Cup. In the last 4 editions, they've been so good over that time period. And this group of players, not just the starting 11, but the squad as well, we saw at the end there, subbing on some rotation options and just continuing to dominate. For South Korea, though, they've confirmed qualification for the World Cup through their performances at this Asian Cup. They will be at the tournament in Brazil in 2027. And yeah, while Shin Sang-woo came into this tournament saying, we want to get to the final, we want to go all the way this year after such a strong performance in 2022, I think they've played really well, South Korea. We're unlucky to come up against Japan in the semis. It was always going to be a difficult game. But yeah, definitely lots of positives for them to take away from their performance. And if they can carry that into the World Cup, they could be a difficult side to face. But for Japan, they march on in this competition and they will meet Australia in the final on Saturday. Make sure to join us for that one. But yeah, in the meantime, we are back later this evening. I'm about to put the stream page up. We are back later this evening as Chelsea take on Brighton. Join us for WSL action tonight. Look out for Friday's video where I'll be previewing that Women's Asian Cup final, looking at what both sides can do to win the game and discussing their tournament so far and ultimately predicting who I think will win the Asian Cup. And of course, join us on Saturday for live coverage of the final, Japan taking on Australia. Can't wait. Should be a good one. But that is everything for today's stream. Thank you guys very much for joining me on this Wednesday morning. It has been so great to cover this tournament and looking forward to the final coming up on Saturday. Lloyd asks, is Harry here for the final? Yes, Harry will be back for the final. We've got a back-to-back stream on Saturday morning. We'll be live for the final at 8:45. We'll be live. Hopefully that game doesn't go to extra time and penalties because we're live then for Chelsea taking on London City and the 12 o'clock kickoff on the Saturday morning because the geniuses at the WSL decided they put all of the 12 o'clock games on the Saturday and clash with the Asian Cup. They are so smart. I love the WSL. But anyway, we'll be back for that double. Thanks everyone that's tuned in today. It's been a fantastic showing. And of course, if you are new and haven't yet hit that subscribe button, make sure to do so. And if you have enjoyed today's stream and haven't yet left a like, make sure to do that also. That is everything. Thank you guys very much for watching. And we'll see you next time.